Om Namah Shivaya, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. Nice to see such good attendance today. The webinar is in two parts. The first part is a publisher's desk that's from the forthcoming July issue. So you haven't seen this one yet. Should parents teach their kids religion? Which is a hot topic in certain Hindu circles and circles of other religions as well. Then the second part is 4 lessons from Path to Shiva with some comments. And again, this is aimed primarily at those who are teaching Path to Shiva, either to adults or to children, to point out certain ideas that are related to the key points but may not be obvious. So in talking about them, it'll give those of you who are teaching greater insight into what the material is trying to say. Here we go. Should parents teach their kids religion? As we've done previously, we're going to ask you to write down the answers to some questions a few times during the presentation. Therefore, please take a minute if you haven't done so already, to get some paper and pen if you're old school, or a digital smartphone or tablet if you're new school, to write down your answer. This will challenge you to think about the material, and then after the question is asked and you've written down your answer, then I'll give the answer that the text has. So you'll get to compare your answer to what the text is telling us. The article subtitle is important. In a globalized world, people are questioning the need to pass their religion on to the next generation. Let's talk about that. And we start out with a question. Write down one or more ideas on why you think people are questioning the need to pass their religion on to the next generation. Give you a minute to do that. Okay. Not that long ago, it was standard practice for parents to pass on their religious tradition to their children. It was also common for parents to belong to a faith community and want their children to join that community. Times have changed, and this is not nearly as common. Nowadays, a significant number of parents consider themselves spiritual but have no religious affiliation, or they will follow secular humanism. These are the various answers. Others focus exclusively on the secular education of their children, not wanting them to participate in religious activities or classes, as they see no career value in religion. Some are simply against religion. Marriages are now common between spouses of different faiths, particularly in Western countries. Recently, I have heard some parents question if they even have the ethical right to ask their children to accept their religious beliefs and practices, reasoning that each human being should find his or her own spiritual way forward. Then there are the pragmatic rationales, too busy to teach religion at home, not knowing enough about the religion, not attending religious activities on a regular basis. not being proud enough about Hinduism, and wanting their children to blend in well in a non-Hindu international school setting. Parents who don't plan to teach religion to their children need to give serious thought as to how the next generation will learn the basics of good conduct and duties to family and community. Religions have traditionally been the most common source of this knowledge. On the web, you can find some statements as to how children, given time, will figure out by themselves all about conduct and duty. However, I know educators who, through many personal experiences, strongly disagree. They have shared with me their dismay that many of the college students in their school regularly cheat to assure that they will succeed. To them, winning is all that matters, and the virtue of honesty is of lesser importance. Are there non-religious resources that teach ethical conduct? Positive psychology is one alternative. Respected for its comprehensive approach to learning values and duties, it has developed 24 character strengths, which are defined as the psychological ingredients for displaying human goodness, and they serve as pathways for developing a life of greater well-being. And then there's the website listed. To understand how religion is being taught, we can turn to the 2019 book, Religious Parenting, Transmitting Faith and Values in Contemporary America, authored by Professor Christian Smith and co-authored with Bridget Ritz and Michael Rotolo. Professor Smith and his co-authors interviewed hundreds of individuals of diverse religious backgrounds, including Hindus and Buddhists. They discovered that despite massive diversity, parents share a nearly identical approach to socializing their children religiously. What do you think the authors found was the view of almost all as to the benefit of teaching religion to their children? Give you a second to guess on that one. The answer, for almost all, religion is important for the foundation it provides for becoming one's best self on life's journey. On a small scale, we did some research in Asia among Hindu parents and found that many hold a similar perspective, that faith training develops character and helps their children to more confidently and effectively handle life's challenges. Parents shared with me that religion is like a kite string that holds an individual to his or her earthbound roots and keeps them from drifting into oblivion. One parent explained that learning about the many challenges Hinduism faced in past centuries teaches children how great Hinduism is. It cannot be destroyed. In my opinion, the ways in which Hinduism can provide benefits to one's life are significant and should not be dismissed. Question for you to answer. What do you consider to be 3 important benefits teaching Hinduism children? What do you consider to be 3 important benefits teaching Hinduism to children can provide. So I chose 3. Take a look at those. Probably they overlap some of the ones you chose as well. Parents are naturally focused on raising their children to be successful. To many, success is related almost exclusively to material prosperity, which is best achieved by pursuing a high-paying, highly demanding professional career. Of course, this strategy includes marrying an equally educated and socially positioned spouse. This definition of success ignores a crucial component: being happy. I have met dozens of men and women who shared that they had always thought professional success and financial abundance would make them happy, but found to their surprise that it did not. Hinduism teaches that lasting happiness does not come from what we achieve in the material world. That kind of fulfillment is fleeting. Enduring happiness comes from contacting our soul nature, our inner spiritual self. Very wonderful quote from Gurudeva on that. Learn to be happy by seeking happiness, not from others, but from the depths of the soul itself. That's a beautiful way of saying it. The depths of the soul itself. To achieve this, he taught, put a smile on the faces of other people. Gain your happiness and your positive states of mind by making other people happy. In other words, happiness comes from giving and not from getting. It is helping others, such as through volunteering, that actually makes us a happier person. So that's a very important one, I think, that many people can relate to. Happiness is not guaranteed from anything we do in the outer mind. No matter how successful, how wealthy we are, we can still be unhappy. And Hinduism has the answer. This is the second point. There are a few things that ruin the quality of life more than anger. Therefore, learning to lessen expressions of this negative emotion and eventually eliminate them is important. A deep understanding of the law of karma allows us to accept what is happening to us as what should be happening to us. We accept that it is in our karma to experience what we are undergoing, both positive and negative. The events that are happening to us are the effects of our actions in this and past lives. That's all we said on anger. We don't have enough space to develop it in the pub desk. Pub desk is limited to 1,400 words, so it fits on a page. And I wrote more on that topic, but we had to cut it out. Third idea, Hindu children face stress in the form of major exams in school, which start as early as age 8 in some Asian countries. Under such stress, they can't do their best work. Hatha yoga asana routines have the power to balance the nervous system and reduce anxiety if performed regularly every week. An even simpler method is the regular practice of diaphragmatic breathing. The basic idea is to train yourself or your kids to breathe from the diaphragm and not from the chest. This is the natural way. It is how babies breathe. However, once we take on life's tensions, the diaphragm tightens and we tend to expand the chest when we breathe. The diaphragm can be felt right below your solar plexus, just below where the ribs separate. To locate it, place your fingertips on the diaphragm and cough. When your fingers are directly on the diaphragm, they will jump as you cough. Whenever you need to relax, such as before and during an important meeting or exam, just take 1 minute to breathe deeply from the diaphragm. Doing this just a few times will convince you of the power of pranayama to ease tensions in the nervous system. It will become a tool you can use in many situations. These three examples clearly show that the beliefs and practices of Hinduism are designed to help an individual live a happier, more creative, and more successful life. Here's a quote from a participant in our informal survey in Asia. Learning religion is paramount, especially with the kind of challenges children face these days. More often than not, Hindu religion is narrowly viewed from the ritualistic point of view. Many fail to see the entirety of the religion and how it encapsulates human life as a whole in all aspects: metaphysics, yoga, Ayurveda, human values, rituals, vastu, astrology, and culture. If Hindus realize how wholesome the religion truly is, I am sure they will be more than willing to teach or send their children to religious classes. Then we have a final quote from Gurudeva. There is no better way to conclude than to draw from the bold wisdom of Gurudeva. Yes, we have but one duty to perform: to pass our religion on to the next generation, the next, and the next. How is this done? Through Saivite education, building more schools, we must educate our youth well. The alternative is to allow Saivism to be conquered by atheism, to be conquered by Christianity, to be conquered by Islam, to be conquered by existentialism and Western rationalism, materialism and secular humanism, and to be conquered by the liberal neo-Indian postulations which seek to cut the roots of tradition. Our only hope lies in educating the children, the young minds which are open and eager to learn, but which are being enticed away from their heritage. Hold them close, protect them, love them dearly, and give them the treasures of Saivism. This is the greatest gift you can offer them. Everything else will perish. Everything else will decay. That's our part 1. Part 2 is also called part 11, which I'll explain. It's part 2 of this webinar, but it's part 11 of going through the 68 lessons of Path to Siva. And today we have 4 lessons, lessons 61 through 64. And as I mentioned, the material is at a basic level, but there are some points in it that the depth of them may not be apparent on the surface. So particularly those are the ones that I'll try and comment on either in reading the text or in going through the test questions. Lesson 61, how do we visit the temple? We go to the temple to be close to God. Though Shiva is everywhere, it is in the holy temple that we can most easily feel his presence. Knowing that Shiva and the Devas can see us, we want to look our best before we visit. We bathe and put on clean traditional clothing. We make an offering such as fruits, milk, and incense, or a lovely garland of flowers. The act of giving makes us receptive to blessings. Outside, we remove our shoes and wash our hands, feet, and mouth and seek blessings at Lord Ganesha's shrine. Next, we walk clockwise around the temple or the central chamber, then pay respects to each deity. If it is puja time, we sit quietly and enjoy the ceremony being performed by the priest. Through his chants, gestures, visualizations, and offerings, he purifies himself and honors the deity with choice offerings as one would receive a king. He calls upon God to come and shower blessings on all. During the puja, we focus on the acts of worship, not allowing our mind to wander. Over time, we learn the meaning of the priest's chants and rituals and mentally follow along. After the arati, we prostrate and rise to receive the flame, blessed water, holy ash, and other sacraments, receiving each item with the right hand. Then we sit quietly and meditate, or just feel the blessings wash over us. This is also a good time for japa. Worship takes many forms in a temple. Devotees can be immersed in the joys of devotion, lost in prayerful communion, seeking consolation for a loss, singing devotional songs, chanting mantras, or celebrating a rite of passage. Arriving home, we light a lamp in our shrine room to bring the devas from the temple into that sacred space. That's a way to strengthen the shrine room. Pujas and rituals give us a chance to pause, look inward, and concentrate on something more meaningful and profound than the mundane matters of life. Puja is Holy Communion, full of wonder and tender affections. The indispensable part of any puja is devotion. Without love in the heart, outer performance is of limited value. But with true devotion, even simple gestures are sacred ritual. Get the questions? Shiva is everywhere. We can feel his presence as easily at home as we can in the temple. Of course, that's false. You have to be a great yogi to do that, and most people aren't great yogis. So for almost everyone, we can feel his presence in the temple much more easily than we can at home. Number the following actions from 1 to 6. So this answer doesn't work well in the webinar. I'll just explain what the purpose of the question is to make sure that the students understand the correct order, what they do first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and then sixth. During the puja, it is fine to just let our mind wander. This is an important one. It's not necessarily thought or talked about, that we have to engage the mind. The example I always use is one's favorite music. Most people have one or more types of music that they would call their favorite music, and when they listen to it, they always get uplifted. But if they listen to it and their mind is thinking about something else, what happens? They're not uplifted. because their mind's not engaged. Just because the music is playing in the room, if their mind is not engaged in the music, paying attention to it, they won't be uplifted by it. They won't be influenced by it. The puja is the same way. Unless the mind is engaged in the puja, then we can't be influenced by it. We're just sitting there. Arriving home, we place a flower from the temple in our shrine room to bring the devas from the temple into that sacred space. Of course, that's false. We light the lamp. The indispensable part of any puja for the devotee attending is, check the correct answer, of course, devotion. That's the answer to that. Lesson 62, how can we strengthen our temple? Blessed with the knowledge that the temple is the home of God and the gods, we visit often, for they are our dear friends. This is the first way to strengthen and become a valued part of our temple and its community. By keeping your spiritual life strong, the more we visit, the more sensitive we become to the spiritual energies. As our love, our bhakti grows, the grace of the gods makes us kinder, more cooperative, and more generous with our time. The second way to strengthen and serve the temple is by participating in activities and helping with duties to make it beautiful and inviting. This uplifts our energies and keeps us close to other devotees. Service takes many forms. We can prepare decorations and assist the priest with puja items. We may like to help cook and serve prasadam to devotees. We can welcome temple visitors, organize activities, make garlands, clean lamps, or direct parking. We can sing or dance during satsanga and festivals. We can help with the mailings or contribute to the temple website. Festival times each year offer even more ways to help. By attending the temple on such auspicious days, when the Shakti is strongest, we become attuned to the deity's blessings. This is a bit small. In the keynote, it moves and gets big, but it's a map which in the center says temple. And it's actually a map of Temple, Texas. And there happens to be a Hindu temple in Temple, Texas. But it's hard to see. The temple is the center of Hindu spiritual life. Saivites consider it most important to live no farther than a day's journey from a holy temple, and we build one wherever we find ourselves in the world. Helping to build a temple earns blessings in this life and the next. Plus, it is a gift to future generations. Temple worship is for all men and women at every level of spiritual development. Its meaning and experience deepen as we unfold spiritually through the stages of service, devotion, yoga, and enlightened wisdom. We never outgrow the practice of temple worship. So those are the English words for Charya, Kriya, Yoga, and Jnana. Or questions? Enter the letter from below of A to B for the phrase that correctly completes the idea. So I left off the A and B, so I have to just give the answer. The first way we can strengthen our temple is to visit often. The second way we can strengthen our temple is by participating in activities and helping with duties. So those are the two ways given. The deity Shakti is strongest on Fridays, new moon days, festival days, of course, festival days. Saivites consider it most important to live no farther from a holy temple than a day's journey. So that's a concept Gurudeva gives for modern living, because in modern life, we need to drive to the temple. And it needs to be close enough so we can go there and come back in one day. Otherwise, we really can't go that often. Helping to build a temple, check the incorrect answer, earns no blessings. That's, of course, incorrect. When we reach the age 72, we no longer need to go to the temple as we have outgrown the practice of temple worship. So this is an idea that many Hindus have, and it's not necessarily related to age 72, but that at some point we just outgrow the temple. The temple is for beginners and intermediates. It's not for someone as advanced as I am. But that's not the Saiva Siddhanta approach. It's not what Gurudeva taught. Worshipping at the temple just deepens as we get more advanced in other practices. Our experience of the temple deepens considerably. And it's always beneficial to worship at a temple, no matter what age you are or how advanced you are in your other practices. Lesson 63, what is our form of prayer? God Shiva and the gods are always with us, closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. Praying is our way of communicating with them. To offer a prayer, visualize the face of God Shiva or a god. Concentrate and say your prayer mentally, sending it up through the top of your head. So you may have forgotten that. You need to send it up through the top of your head. You can pray anywhere, but the inner world beings can best hear you in a sacred temple or your home shrine. One of the greatest prayers of all is giving thanks for all the gifts Shiva has provided in our life. Most often, though, devotees pray for help. The gods will respond. Most simply, they send a blessing to quiet your mind and clear your aura. Sometimes this is all that is needed. Suppose you pray to Lord Ganesha for help with your studies. After the blessing from the Mahadevas, the subject matter seems clear and interesting. You absorb it easily and do better on your tests. Answering some prayers may require assigning a deva to determine the best way to assist you. It is comforting to know that the gods or devas and your own guardian devas are ever ready to respond to your requests for help and guidance. You gain this boon by living a religious life and being consistent in your sadhana. Some temples, such as Kadubal Temple in Hawaii, accept written prayers from devotees. When burned, these are released to their astral form in the Devaloka for the devas to read and act upon. Before asking for help, we make every effort to use our own intelligence and strength. In our prayers, we always remember that God and the gods know the highest course for our life. They know better than we do the lessons and experiences we need to improve. Our prayers will be answered, and in wisdom we accept the answer, even if it is not what we had hoped for. To offer a prayer, we visualize the face of God Shiva or God, concentrate and say our prayer mentally, sending it up to the top of our head. True. Inner world beings can hear your prayer. Inner world beings can hear your prayer equally as well wherever you are. False. The text is pointing out they can hear you much better in a temple or a home shrine. There's no point praying elsewhere. When we pray for help, the gods respond most simply by sending a blessing to quiet your mind and clear your aura. True. Before asking for help, we make no effort to use our own intelligence and strength. Make every effort to use our own intelligence and strength. So this is an important point, particularly for younger people. They can have the idea that if I pray to Lord Ganesha, he'll do all the work. There's a major exam coming up. All I have to do is pray and I'll do really well on the exam. So the text is pointing out that that's not the way to approach it. The way to approach it is you study hard, you try and do your best, but then you pray. And because you pray, you do a little better than you would have without praying. But you have to try and do your own best. Our prayers will be answered exactly in the way we hope for. Of course, this is false. And for a couple of reasons. One is we may be praying for something that if we got, the results would not work out well. It would be unwise, but we don't see that. And the beings in the inner worlds do see it, so they don't grant us the answer, and we don't end up going in a way that wouldn't be productive. Another reason is we're asking for something that's a little beyond our situation. In other words, each individual has his or her own karma and dharma. And if two individuals with different karma and dharma pray for the same thing, it'll manifest in a different way. So we're limited by our karma and dharma as to exactly what can happen. Last one, lesson 64. How do we celebrate festivals? Hinduism is celebratory by nature. Hindus miss no opportunity to set mundane matters aside and join with family, friends, neighbors, and strangers alike to feast and have fun, to renew the home and the heart, and most importantly, draw nearer to God. Festivals are perhaps more impressive and varied in Hinduism than in any other religion. Certainly are varied. The devout Hindu knows these are times of profound mysticism when God and the gods touch our world, revitalize our souls, lighten karmas, and bless our families. Yet festivals do even more than this. They are essential to the perpetuation of religion, periodically reigniting the spark of zeal and devotion in the community. They provide the spiritual public square where Hindus engage with one another to affirm shared values and enjoy life's intersections. Water looks cold, huh? Before each celebration, vows are taken, scriptures are studied, pilgrimages are made, and fasts observed in preparation. Such acts of intimate devotion bring the devotee closer to the gods, keep him on the path to his inmost self. As each festival begins, solitary worship becomes a collective ritual, with millions of people taking their places in a creative choreography. Every festival is special and unforgettable in its own way. Thus, Hindus are reminded of their faith by the sounds, scents, colorful decorations, and the wild medley of tastes laid out for the feast. Mind and emotions are saturated with Hinduism as sacred mantra prayers are intoned. The spiritual teachings are recounted by saints, and the gods are praised in melodious bhajans. Each Indian village and each global community lends a little of its unique culture to how a festival is celebrated, creating almost endless variations. Recently, with the growing Hindu population outside of India, festivals have acquired an international dimension. What could be more entertaining, alive, vibrant, and yet pious and rich in symbolism than a Hindu festival? Have our final group of questions here. Most important aspect of Hindu festivals is, of course, draw nearer to God. Enter the letter from below of A to D for the phrase that correctly completes the idea. The devout Hindu knows these are times of profound mysticism when God and the gods touch our world, revitalize our souls, lighten our karmas, and bless our families. So that's just a question of remembering all that. Before each celebration, vows are taken, scriptures are studied, pilgrimages are made, feasting is observed. Of course, the last one is incorrect. The text says fasting is observed. So feasting is afterwards, not before. Enter the letter from below of A to C for the phrase that correctly completes the idea. During festivals, mind and emotions are saturated with Hinduism. As sacred mantra prayers are intoned, spiritual teachings are recounted by saints, and the gods are praised in melodious bhajans. Very good. That's our last question. Thank you very much for joining us. Hope the technology worked on your end. It's working better on our end here. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Om Namah Shivaya.